Hey, my name is Marley and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul. It's been a minute since I did a book haul. I think the last one I did was a spring/summer book haul. So today we're going to be doing a fall/winter book haul where I talk about all the books that I got in fall and winter, which is my birthday and Christmas. So there are quite a few books here. I think it's about 28. Hopefully I didn't miss any. And honestly, a lot of these books I had to pull from my shelves, which showed that I've actually read quite a few of the books that I hauled, which is a good sign. So I'm gonna try to go in order here. Starting out, we have The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Inheritance Games trilogy, and it was the conclusion. This is a YA thriller series I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of if you watch booktube. It's one that I really enjoy. I just love the riddles, the mystery, and of course the fun YA love triangle angst. It's just a really fun series for me, and this was a great little conclusion to the series. Should I put these back as I go? Maybe we'll do that. Next up, another conclusion to a series we have is Heatwave by TJ Klune. This is the third book in the Extraordinary series, which is a YA fantasy series about superheroes. Specifically, we're following our main character who is like obsessed with superheroes and has a crush on one of them to the point of even writing fan fiction about that superhero, and then he actually ends up getting entangled in the drama of the superheroes in his town. These are just super cute books. Our main character is queer and neurodivergent. There's a lot of diversity, also a lot of fun action, and it's also very funny. So I actually have plans to read this book this month, and I'm really excited to finally get to it. Then we have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This was gifted to me from Paige from the PM Reader for my birthday. Was really excited to get this one because this is a book that really blew up on BookTube a few years ago, and I've just been dying to pick it up. I haven't read any of Aiden Thomas's books, but I know people absolutely love them. As for the plot, so when his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and best friend Mauritzia, he performs the Quinces ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin Miguel and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. Another YA book that I got recently was Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus. She's another YA thriller author. I buy all of her books. Normally I read them pretty quick after they release, but I have not got to this one yet. I'm just not quite as excited for her books as I used to be, and I've definitely been hearing mixed things about this one. Let me try and remember what this one is about. Oh right, this was Karen trying to do a murder podcast element in her books, but she was like a little late on the train for that one. I think it's just a classic murder mystery story. Then I got Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Of course, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. As you probably already heard, this is about the famous tennis player Carrie Soto. I think she used to be a great tennis player back in the day and took some sort of break for some reason, and now she's back and kind of trying to defend her title. I mostly hear good things about this one. Not as good as Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo, but I have a feeling none of her books are ever really going to top that ever again. But I'm still really excited to read another book from her. I'm sure it's going to be great. Then I got the book Another Note from my boyfriend for Christmas, I think. This is Another Note, the Los Angeles BB murder case, and this is a Death Note story. So Death Note is a really popular anime and a manga that I have watched and am currently reading, and this is like a little side story following the character of L. If you're familiar with the series, you'll know who I mean. He's a detective, and so this takes place before the events of Death Note, and it's following a case that he did in Los Angeles, obviously. I really love this. I think I give it 5 stars. It's just like a great book for if you like murders and mysteries and if you like the vibe of Death Note. It has great plot twists. It's pretty short. I think I read it in like a day, so it was very enjoyable. Then I hauled the rest of a series, and that was The Cruel Prince and Wicked King, The Wicked King by Holly Black. So I had the third book, Queen of Nothing, I think it's called, that I got at some used bookstore or thrift store or something, but I didn't have the first 2 books in the series. So now I got them in hardcover, very beautiful. This is a highly anticipated series for me. People love it. Like everyone that loves YA fantasy pretty much loves these books. So I've been really dying to get to them for years, and I think this year is the year I'm finally going to read them. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably vlog it. But this is basically just about a girl who I think gets wrapped up in like fairy drama. I've read quite a few of those series, so I think it will just be very comforting and very fun. Speaking of series, I also got Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. This is the second book in his Beartown series. I know the third book came out last year, but I'm not there yet. I still gotta read this second book, and I think I got this at a used bookstore. If you don't know, Beartown is about this town that's like obsessed with hockey. It's really their only like claim to fame at the town, and then the book surrounds this angst when one of the star hockey players gets accused of sexually assaulting a girl in the town. I think it's the coach's daughter actually. So all the drama kind of surrounding that situation. This is going to be following the fallout of those events and will probably be just as upsetting. I don't know. I really don't hear as many people talk about the sequels to this series as much as they do the first one. So very curious to see what direction this will go in. Next up we have Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is actually a book I have read. I think I read it back in October when I was reading a bunch of YA thrillers. This is kind of a YA thriller, but kind of just a contemporary. It's about a main character whose best friend goes missing, and then she seems to be the only one who's really concerned about this. None of the other adults seem to be taking it seriously, and so it just really deals with kind of issues of young girls going missing, domestic abuse, kind of very serious topics like that, like Tiffany D. Jackson's books normally cover. It was really, really good, really hard hitting, will really tug on your heartstrings. Yeah, great book. Another book I got was The Iron Raven by Julie Kagawa. She is the author of the Iron Fae series, which is a series I read before I had my booktube channel, like back in high school. I think I originally read that series. Let me see if I can show you. This is what the cover of the first book looks like, if you recognize from seeing that around, seeing that in the bookstore. I just counted on my shelf and there are 7 previous books in this series. Now she came out with a like sequel series. She just keeps milking it as authors do. But this is called the Iron Fae Even Fall series. So we are specifically following Robin Goodfellow, who is of course the puck prankster, jokester from A Midsummer's Night's Dream. This is based in Fae mythology. It takes a lot of it from A Midsummer Night's Dream, the play by Shakespeare. The initial series is very much that trope of like a human girl getting wrapped up in the fairy world. And this one, I assume will still have those characters in it from the other series, but this is finally Puck's story, and he's been a character in the previous books. So other than that, that's really all I know about this book. And I know there is another book coming out, a sequel to this, which I do not have yet. Don't know how many more books is going to be in this series, but you know what, I am excited to get back into this because I did really enjoy the series back in high school. Then we have Sweet Blood by Pete Hotman. This is a book that I bought and read for my reading vlog, where I read books with characters that had type 1 diabetes. I'll definitely link that if you want to go check it out. It's a really long vlog, but I was pretty proud of it. Basically, I have type 1 diabetes, so in honor of National Diabetes Awareness Month in November, I read a bunch of books that featured the disease, and this is one of them. It's a pretty old book. When did it come out? I think in 2009 it was originally released. I only knew about it from Katie Colson's booktube channel because she, I think, was sent it by one of her viewers. And it is about this teenage girl who has recently been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, or she's had it for a few years. No, I think she's recently diagnosed. But she is also really into vampires and has this theory that type 1 diabetics were originally vampires. Kind of funny, kind of silly, but it really just dives into how hard it is to be a teenager with type 1 diabetes, or just any age with the disease. It deals with the dangers of like online predators, as I feel like this came out when like the internet was still new-ish. It's a great book for teenagers, I definitely recommend, or if you're someone with type 1 and just wants to read about like a relatable experience or want to learn more about the disease. I felt like it was a pretty accurate representation. I think I gave it 4 stars. Not too exciting, but I did get the first book in the Arc of a Scythe series, Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a series I've talked about a few times on my channel. I had the second and third book in the trilogy before, but I finally found this one. It must have just been at book outlet or a used bookstore or something. This is a dystopian YA series about this world where humans no longer die naturally because technology has advanced so much that we can like heal any illness and stuff. So there are these people called Scythes who kill people, and that's the only way people die. They have a certain quota they have to do so that the world doesn't get overpopulated, and we're following these two teenage characters who end up getting trained to become Scythes and enter these trials and stuff like that. One of my favorite series, to be honest. I really need to reread them. Now that I have the whole series physically, maybe I will, even though I like never reread books. This is a series I would consider rereading. If you have not checked it out yet, but you like series like Hunger Games and stuff like that, you really need to read it. I know Neil came out with this like short story collection last year. I don't think I'm gonna pick that up because I feel like it's been long enough since I read this series. I don't really care about extra short stories in the world. I just kind of don't love when authors do that. Unless it's Cassandra Clare, then I'll pick it up, but otherwise I don't think I'll pick up that book. Then I got Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This is a thriller book that a lot of people have been loving on BookTube, so I'm really excited to get to it. Basically, I just know the initial premise, which is that it's about these two men whose sons have been murdered, and their sons were gay and I think in a relationship together, and I don't think the dads were particularly accepting of it when their sons were alive, but now that they've been murdered, they want to get revenge and just sort of avenge their sons. And so I think it's an emotional journey of them like maybe finally accepting their sons after they're already dead and getting revenge, and just a whole thrillery time. So I think everyone I see that reads this gives it a good rating, so I have high hopes I'll really enjoy this one whenever I can get to it. Then we have Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn. This was my favorite book of the year last year, so you may have heard me talk about it already, but it's the second book in the Legendborn series, which is a YA fantasy series that deals with Arthurian legends and legacies, so like Arthur and the Round Table, Merlin, that kind of thing. It has really fun tropes of this young teenage girl going away to school, and then there being a secret society on campus that she witnesses killing demons, so she gets wrapped up in this world and finds out she's actually pretty involved in this society and has a history with it due to her parents. Love this series. Definitely a must read if you like YA fantasy. Another really exciting book to haul is Five Survive by Holly Jackson. My friend Allie gave this to me for Christmas. You guys probably know I love Holly Jackson's series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It's like my favorite YA thriller series, and this is her first standalone that has come out. It is about this group of friends on a road trip, and I think their car breaks down, and then they are all trying to survive in the woods, and I think someone's trying to kill them. Have only heard good things so far, and I'm so excited to read this probably this month. I think I'm gonna pick it up after my current read, and I really anticipate it taking like 1 or 2 days because I know I'm just gonna love it. So stay tuned, subscribe to watch my wrap up where I'll talk about my review. Then we have The Maid, and this is by Nina Prose, and I was given this by Serena for Christmas from A Wandering Mind, so thank you so much. This is a pretty popular book from last year. I think it's a cozy mystery. I originally thought it was just a plain thriller, but I think I have heard it's a cozy mystery, and I think it features a neurodiverse character or something, but I'm gonna have to read what the actual plot is because I think I forget now. Okay, yeah, it definitely sounds like a cozy mystery from the plot. Basically, we're following a main character who works as a maid, and then one day when she's cleaning this one room, she comes across a dead body and then becomes the lead suspect in the case, and she's trying to prove that she's innocent and figure out who the real killer is. So yeah, definitely gives cozy mystery vibes. I've heard a little bit of mixed things about this one, but at least I'm mentally prepared for that, so hopefully I will enjoy this one. Another book I got for Christmas was Ace of Shades. Yeah, Ace of Shades by Amanda Foodie, and I got this one from Nat for Christmas. Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads, thank you so much. This is a YA fantasy book, I think it's the first in the series that I've had my eye on for a really long time, and I actually just read from Amanda Foodie recently with her All of Us Are Villains series. I read that first book and I did quite enjoy that one, so feeling excited to get to this one at some point. Cannot remember the plot, so let me see. Okay, a classic mother goes missing, main character is trying to find her, runs into a con man, gets wrapped up in an investment scheme. Don't see any fantasy elements in this plot actually, but it has to do with some sort of deadly competition again. So I guess Amanda Foodie likes to write about that because all of us villains dealt with a deadly competition. Anyways, I'm excited still. Another book I got for Christmas was The Lovely War by Julie Berry, and I got this one from Paige from the PM Reader. So once again, thank you to her. This is actually a very thick book now that I'm holding it, but this was a book I heard about a few years ago. I think it deals with Greek mythology, especially Ares and Aphrodite, the gods of love and war. I think they get involved in World War I and II. In the perilous days of World War I and II, the gods held the fates and the hearts of 4 mortals in their hands. Sounds a little bit out of my comfort zone. I don't really read like war books or historical books, but you know what? I will read this one day and hopefully like it. And I think the last book I got for Christmas was The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. Again, I'm clearly collecting her books, but this was one that my boyfriend Dakota got me because he heard that it was a Carrie retelling and he's a big fan of Stephen King. I actually originally read Carrie for the first time when I was reading books from his shelf a couple years ago, so it was kind of fitting that he got me this. But yeah, it's a Carrie retelling, except that I think it focuses more on racism and takes place in more like modern times. I've heard really good things about it. There's maybe like a couple people that haven't loved it from what I've seen, but for the most part it was on some of people's favorite lists for 2022, so very excited to get to this one. I think I might read it pretty soon actually. Next one's kind of random, but we have King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. This is the 3rd book in her Red Queen series. I realized that I only had the first 2 in that series on my shelf unread. I have not touched the series yet, but I saw this at the used bookstore the other day, so I thought I'll just pick it up so I have it for when I eventually try to get to this series. But all I know is that this is one of those classic YA series from back in the day. Might be a little cringy now, might not hold up, but I imagine I'll probably have a good time with it whenever I get to it. Then I had some Amazon gift cards to use up, so I decided to buy a couple books that I have already read but I didn't have on my shelf yet, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry and Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. These are 2 of my favorite romances that I just didn't own, but I really wanted for my collection. You guys have probably heard of these 2. They are booktube favorites, but this one is a romance about these 2 people who are writers, but they're experiencing writer's block, so they decide to trade genres and write each other's genre, and during that they are kind of bonding and dating, falling in love, even though originally they did not get along. If you guys are subscribed to me, you probably know I love Emily Henry and her books are my favorite romances. Red, White, and Royal Blue is another enemies to lovers story about the son of the American president and then the Prince of England. So it's a queer romance between these 2 men, and I think they pretend to be friends for publicity reasons, but then end up actually falling in love, but then are kind of scared to come out to the world because they are in such like prestigious positions and they don't want to disappoint their countries. This is getting a movie adaptation. Very excited to see that. Don't have high hopes though, to be honest. But yeah, so now I have these 2 books for my collection. Also with those Amazon gift cards, I got a whole series, and that is the Raven Boy series by Maggie Stiefvater. This is another YA, I think, fantasy series that I've been wanting to get for years and years. People talk really highly about these on YouTube. So we have the first book called The Raven Boys. Which one is the second one? The Dream Thieves. It's giving 6 of Crows. I don't know if it's kind of similar to that, but Blue Lily. Don't know what that means. And then The Raven King. I actually really don't know much about this series in terms of the plot. I just know that I want to read them. So now I have them. Maybe I'll do some giant reading blog reading them. I don't know if anyone cares about that at this point, cares about this series. Let me know if you'd like to see that, but otherwise I'm just excited to read these whenever I can. And the final book that I hauled, shouldn't be a shock, but that is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I bought this most recently because it just was released at the end of January, and I already read it and did a whole reading blog, so check that out if you want to see my review and spoilery opinions. But this is the 3rd book in the Last Hours trilogy and the final book in the series. Oh, it's very shiny in this light. So I was really excited for this book because obviously Cassandra Clare is my favorite author, and I've really been enjoying this series, but unfortunately this book did let me down a little bit. It was probably my least favorite in the trilogy. I feel like a lot of storylines got dragged out. I feel like a lot of it could have been cut. This is almost an 800-page book, and it definitely did not need to be. I do always love her characters and relationships, but it was getting to be a little bit much in this book, to be honest. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Now I can add it to my Cassandra Clare shelf, and it fits perfectly. All right, that is the end of the book haul. Let me know your thoughts below on any of these books, if you think there's any I should prioritize of the ones I haven't read yet, and like if you liked it, and subscribe if you've not already to see my reviews of these books. Thanks so much for watching if you made it this far. Hope you have a great rest of your day.